Fun episode lined up for you guys today. Me and Ben may have opposing views on this too. We just talked about, so it'll be interesting to see. But the topic today is accountability is an excuse. And so we're going to unpack that, have some fun. Ben, why don't you start us? When you think about accountability, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, I have a lot of different thoughts. I mean, like you just said, I think it's going to be interesting. We agreed on the topic, but now we'll unpack and see kind of how we align.
Yep.
Often when we get into conversations and whatnot, I think often what comes up is I feel the need for accountability to get where I want to go, right? But I think there's really like 3 levels, and the levels that I agree with, it would be, there's level 1, which is responsibility. Level 2 is accountability. And then level 3 would be ownership. Okay. And my thoughts around that are, a lot of times people don't even know what their responsibilities are, and they go straight into accountability, and they put all of this, I need somebody to hold me accountable to do it, but they haven't taken the time to take a step back and really outline what they are responsible for, what they're going to commit to get done, so that they can be held accountable. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that that's the first thing that a lot of people miss when it comes to accountability, is they haven't even built a plan. They don't even have a clear vision of, what do I need to do to be held responsible for? And it's so easy in a W-2 type of world, because you have a job description. It's like, here's your job, here's exactly what you have to do. And a lot of times when we get into being entrepreneurs, business owners, 1099, which is the world of being a real estate agent, we understand our responsibility is to sell a home or help somebody buy a home, but we don't understand the fundamentals to get that result.
Yeah. So dude, so far we're in alignment. And I think just the way you outlined those 3 levels, I feel like we're going to be thinking on the same page here, because going to the W-2 analogy, like, it's very clear of what your job is. Like, you have a job description, literally. A real estate agent's job description is sell a home, help a buyer buy a home. Like, that's pretty much it. And so it's in the W-2, it's all right, here's what you need to do. And it's black and white. Did you do it or did you not do it? Yeah. And then from there, the next level of that area is, did you do it well enough or not? And then it's pretty easy to get better at your job, to move up to this and that, because you know what the definable outcomes are. Whereas in real estate, you look up, what should I do as a real estate agent every day, or how to generate business, or how to do this or that. You're going to get 50 different answers, so the answers are out there, but when you don't know what you don't know what to do. And so it's just information overwhelm.
All right, real quick, and then we'll get right back to the content. If you're a real estate agent, you're looking to build a listing-based business, a business where you can generate a multiple 6-figure income, a business that doesn't require you to waste thousands of dollars on the new marketing gimmicks, then I'm going to invite you to click the link right underneath this video to learn about our Listing Agent Academy coaching program. This is a 6-month intense coaching system that more than 3,000 agents from every market all over the country have now gone through. And here's the reality. Here's the truth. I will shoot you straight. This program is not for everyone. This is for agents who value being around winners. They value being in a community of other real estate agents that actually show up, that actually put forth the work. And this is for agents that embrace high levels of accountability and visibility. To get the details, all you have to do is click the link beneath this video. You can schedule a coaching consultation, and then you can decide for yourself. So with that being said, let's jump back into the content.
Absolutely.
So go on to your next one. I love it.
So yeah, so if the thing that I think is important to keep in mind is like they're, so I think back to sports. Okay. And I'll lay this out. I think within accountability, there are 3 levels of accountability. Okay. And I think of sports because I think it's just the best way to explain this. But I think there's accountability, which often people are seeking out, which is like a form of like a coach to the athlete. So like leadership to peer, okay, is what I would describe it. So you have a, hey, you guys need to wear a suit to school today because we've got a game. And if you don't do that, then, hey, now the whole team's running laps because you didn't do that. So the coach held the whole team responsible. Then there's like peer-to-peer. Okay. That would be level 2, which is more impactful. It's like you're in school and you're like, Colton, what are you doing, man? Go put your tie on. We got a game today. I'm not flipping running laps because of you, dummy. Come on. Or do your homework. What are you doing? We're all going to suffer. So that I would think would be hold you at a higher level. And then the absolute best is personal accountability, which it's like, this is what I know I need to do, and I'm going to hold myself to it. And I think it's a progression. And we can get some high levels of accountability and then put other levels in as we kind of build those muscles. What are your thoughts on that?
You just made me think of like a great example when in the sports world. So, every real estate agent not every, but most agents want to make, the big money. They want to be the top agent. They want to be the Kobe Bryant or the Michael Jordan of their office or their market. But they're not willing to do those things that, like, do you think Kobe needed accountability? Like, do you think Tom Brady, do you think he needs to be held accountable? Like, these guys transcend accountability, right? And it's your third point, which is that responsibility, self-accountability. And, we want those type of results, but we got to go work through those levels. And it's just, all it is just raising your level of awareness to knowing like, all right, these are kind of what some of these top agents do. Like, people who've come up have looked at, like Kobe looked at what Michael did, and he studied Michael, and like even his fade, and like how when he kicks back, like how his feet kind of feel the defender, and like Kobe modeled that exactly. And so it's really understanding what the top people do, and just like you said from earlier, defining what those things are. And and again, I want to take a step back and it doesn't mean accountability isn't valuable. Brandon says this all the time, which is people respect what you inspect, right? So like going to the gym, if you're lifting weights, go just by yourself, you're probably going to, if you're pretty driven, like you're probably going to push yourself, you probably want to get bigger. But if you're with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or if you're with like a gym buddy who's at bigger than you, like you guys are going to push each other a bit more. So, but it's just understanding how that accountability fits in. My biggest fear for agents when they come in saying what you said earlier, like, oh, I just need accountability to do this or that, is they're creating a codependence.
That's right.
Like a lot of people use accountability as an excuse, as this topic says, to create codependence. And my whole thought process is like, I relate it to a road trip, so this is an analogy I've used before, but I'm here in Michigan, you're down there in Virginia, all right? Richmond, is it you're at?
Charlottesville. Yeah.
Charlottesville. Yeah. So let's say like my goal is to make $300,000 this year, and we're going to make it a road trip. So you're my coach, and what we do here, you're going to tell me, all right, so your goal is $300,000. We're going to take a road trip. All you got to do to make that kind of money or to hit your goal is just come drive down here, Charlottesville, and you'll get your money. Right. Pretty straightforward. But that's what a lot of agents think of. All I got to do is just get on the phone and talk to people. All I got to do is just go to this. But if that's all like, well, what direction do I go? What if I get a flat tire? This. And so it's like, it's unknown. And so as a coach or somebody you're learning from can provide you and say, all right, well, we're going to help you get a vehicle. We'll give you a loan on a vehicle. We'll give you the address so you know exactly where to come, and the GPS. So turn by turn exactly how to get there. And then inevitably on mile 340, when you get a flat tire, I'll help you change it. But who has to get in the car and still drive to go and reach that goal? Like most people, when they say accountability, they don't want a babysitter. So,
Right.
even me, like I wouldn't want you in the back seat asking me every 10 minutes if I'm still driving. And so it's just really understanding that when I imagine people want accountability, they just want like turn by turn directions of like what I should do. What if this happens? And then maybe someone to come help you change a flat tire every now and again. But if I had all that information, there's no reason I wouldn't come and drive down to get the money. Right. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's kind of two different ways to use accountability. There's kind of the one that we're talking about, which is it's an excuse. Like, Colton, I'm not succeeding because I haven't had the right person to hold me accountable. Right. So I think it's to those three levels I outlined: responsibility, accountability, and ownership. I think ownership is the most important because we need accountability, I believe, but we need ownership. Whose responsibility is this? When I fully decided every good thing, every bad thing, this, that, and the other, it's 100% my responsibility. If it succeeds or doesn't, I'm taking ownership for it. So I'm not successful because I don't have accountability. So kind of to maybe I didn't make sense there, but the accountability, when we say I'm not succeeding because I haven't found the right person to hold me accountable, you're putting, like you said, all of it on that person. Yeah. But you say you take full responsibility and say it's your fault, not the accountability person. Yeah. The accountability is just a tool that you're using. You're putting somebody, Colton, every day I'm going to check in with you and make sure, right? So I'm going to drive, I'm going to get that check no matter what, but I'm going to check in with you just to make sure I'm on pace. Yep. Right. And I think the thing to keep in mind is nobody can make you do anything.
Right. Yep. I use that as a joke a lot when, people coming on calls or coaching, whatever. I say, look, we're going to give you everything you need. And you could be my next door neighbor right across the street, and I'm still not going to come make the calls for you. Like you could be my brother and move in with me. You're making the calls, And so it's so true. The whole ownership responsibility thing, like you get into a car accident, somebody rear ends you, you were just sitting there. That's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, right? Because you have to deal with the aftermath. You have to handle the situation. Like you can't just put blame. Oh, that person hit me. And if I just would have gone through the yellow, I wouldn't have got you can't, you got to just own it. Right. And so, the client was so crazy. I told them everything that they needed to do, and they still wouldn't listen to my advice on pricing and marketing. And then it expired. Well, maybe it wasn't your fault, but also taking a step back, it could have been. What if you had some better skills to ask some better questions? But even that, it's on you. You gotta own it. You got to deal with the aftermath. And I think it's so much more freeing to say everything that does happen negative, taking 100% responsibility for it. That expired. You know what? That is 100% my fault. These are all the things I did wrong, or I could have done better. I should have communicated better. I should have gotten ahead of this. I shouldn't have even taken the listing because I knew it was overpriced. Right. Yeah. So always taking ownership, because I believe if you take ownership, you're saying I'm in control, which means you're in control to change. But if you're constantly putting it on your accountability, the person holding you accountable, if you're constantly putting it on, I've got the wrong brokerage, this, that, the other, whatever. I'm in the wrong market, this, that, whatever. You pick the topic. You're saying that you don't have the power to change it. So if you're saying I'm responsible, I own this, you're giving yourself the power to change it. Yep. And I think the other thing that happens too is our time horizons. Like we're so short-sighted. Like if you just zoomed out or gave it more time, like this is a little bit off topic, but still on, like in terms of just failure. People want accountability because they don't want to fail. Well, failure is just not looking far enough into the future. Like that's it, and the cliche saying, you only fail if you stop, but it's so true. Like you could think that you failed at this point because you haven't had the accountability. You haven't had this. I've been making the calls. I've been doing that. You give it one more week and you take a listing. Did you fail? As of last week, you failed. But if you just lifted your time horizons long enough and kept ownership and responsibility, like, that listing that fell through, who knows? Like if you handled it right, maybe 2 months later, the sellers come to a realization like, look, we're so sorry how we treated you, but we've got somebody else that we know who's moving. Would you be able to, like, you can't predict what's going to happen, so you just have to, dude, you gave the best story ever a few weeks ago with the whole, the Chinese tale with the sun falling off the horse.
Yep.
It's
the
like
Chinese parable.
Yeah. Summarize that quickly, 'cause that goes pretty well with this.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this Chinese farmer, and he has a horse, and his horse runs away, and the whole village comes to him. They're like, "Sir, this is such bad news. I'm so sorry your horse ran away." And he says, "Good news, bad news, I don't know." Right? Then the horse comes back the next day with 3 horses. The whole town comes. "What great news. You have 3 horses." He said, "Good news, bad news, I don't know yet." His son is trying to train the horses. He falls off, breaks his back. They're like, "Oh no, what bad news?" He says, "Good news, bad news, I don't know yet." Right? It goes on and on and on. The point is where it never stops. It's just a situation. It's not good. It's not bad. You can decide and navigate it and choose whatever, direction you want to put on it, or power maybe.
And another relation to accountability in real estate with that story is this farmer the whole time wasn't focused on the end result. Like he was focused on just the process of life in this scenario. Like, hey, this is life. It happens. Things are good. Things are bad. Same with real estate and accountability. Like you're going to get some listings. You're going to lose some listings. You're going to have incredible days. And here's the other thing. Like it's almost like agents coming in with that mindset we're talking about earlier of I haven't had the right person to hold me accountable. They're putting 80% outside of them. And then the 20% is on them of like, if I will do the work once I'm accountable and there's things they do, it has to be flipped. Like 80% has to be on you, but there's also an understanding of 20%. Like, dude, I'm going to fall off. Like I'm going to feel like crap. Brandon calls it a case of the F-its one day. And you know what? I'm bailing early Friday and I'm having the weekend with my family. Like, but if you have the 80% ownership on you and the 20% external to kind of inspect your work so that you respect doing it, kind of like we talked about, the good version of accountability, that's it, like, yeah, it's just cliche, but it's not the destination, it's the journey. I think it's a little bit of both. Like it's the destination that makes you want to keep going on the journey, but you got to focus on the journey,
And I think it's a progression as well. And maybe we can get like super tactical for a minute. And if we think of like those 3 types of that I use to compare to sports, of at first, you might need a higher level of accountability to start to build that muscle. So when we think of like leader to peer, I think of 2 different ways, and put in another one if you can think of it. But I think of, okay, join a team and look at it more like a job. So like, here's what you get. If you don't get it, you're fired. A lot of people can relate to that type of accountability in W-2. So if you join a team, you could kind of look at it like a job. They're going to give you the responsibility. They're going to hold you accountable. And part of that is if you don't do your job, you're fired, which a lot of people can't do, which is level 3 is personal. So maybe you start there, or you hire somebody outside and you try and be a solo agent, do it on your own, but you hire the accountability and coaching externally to help you start. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. Did you have another one?
No, I want you to throw one in there. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. It could go both ways. And I'm a firm believer, firsthand experience and witnessing it from other people, is that when you pay attention. So there's value in paying somebody, a coach, or putting money on the line for accountability. So the other one I was going to say is like, like we have the mastermind here and there's just a bunch of agents masterminding, holding each other accountable. And it's really cool to see when somebody pairs up with an accountability partner and their partner posts in the group publicly in front of everybody. Yeah. This person has committed to doing this. And if they don't do this, I get to cash this check for this amount. Right. And again, like that person is going to work that much harder because now it's public, everyone knows about it. So you don't want to fail in public. But secondly, like you don't want that money to go to waste because, you know, you've been working hard for that. But again, I think starting with something like that, like you said, helps instill the habits and understanding of like, oh, like this is on me. Like, I know I kind of started with that outside accountability, but like now I get it. You know, it's like, you've got to get it through experience. You can't describe what a blueberry tastes like to somebody. Like they have to eat the blueberry to know. Like you can describe it all you want, like your mouth is good. And so same with accountability. I think you're right. You have to transcend through these levels. And then once you finally start to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, I don't know, independent, within like an organization, like within your W-2 job, like when you don't need to have your boss tell you what to do anymore, if you're on a team, when you don't need somebody to be kind of like pointing their finger at you, you just get it done. Then you can be like, oh, so like I can do this myself without paying 40% of my commission. Or
totally. And, you know, that level ones that, you know, joining the team, hiring outside to keep the peer, what you described is the peer-to-peer, right? Yeah. So you're linking up with somebody at the same level as you, and you set those parameters in place to keep each other accountable.
Yep.
And then, you know, another one would be kind of peer-to-peer. You could, somebody outside the industry, like a family member or a friend. And, you know, sometimes it's helpful to have somebody that's not emotionally attached, but I would say that's another. And then the personal, I think when you have built that muscle over time, you're going to get clearer and clearer on your why, the reason you're doing this. But personal, I mean, you can do things like, you know, Brandon talks a lot about the X, right? We talk a lot about the tracking.
Yep.
So, I mean, that is my highest level of a personal accountability, is to your previous point, what you inspect, you say it again.
What someone inspects, you respect, right?
Totally. So if you can do that for yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're tracking if you want to improve your finances, track them every single day. If you want to improve your diet, write down every single thing you eat that day. If you want to improve your business, journal it every single day, or track the numbers. And that's what I love to do, just to keep myself accountable. I have those metrics. I know what I want to hit. And then there's a couple other personal ones I wanted to say, but what do you think personally, like what you can do just with yourself to keep yourself accountable?
Well, I like what you just said, and maybe we'll have a whole episode on, we'll geek out on some of our tracking and some of the like systems that we've built for ourselves. I think part of it is like, you've got to gamify it, you know, like make it fun. 100%. And if you guys don't know, hopefully most of you know Rob Deerdeck. I grew up watching him in Fantasy Factory, and then there's Ridiculousness, and he's built all these companies and businesses. And he talks a lot about like just how he's optimized his life completely. And a big thing he does, he tracks everything. So he tracks his time, his energy. So he wakes up, tags how, you know, how he feels on a lot, like 1 to 5. It's 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 on his work, his relationship, and his health. Right. And it takes him 10 seconds. He just puts, all right, what do I feel today? Boom. And then he tracks all of his time on his calendar. And what that does is all that data gets aggregated, and he can see trends over time. So how is he spending his time? Like X% is work, X% is this and that. And then even he goes so deep to like, how much time am I spending on this company? Dude, he's gotten it down to where Ridiculousness, they film like 10 or 20 episodes in like 2 hours or something crazy, because he's tracked all this and optimizes it, you know? And so I've built something similar for myself. It's just fun to see, all right, what are my goals? And then what projects am I working on to get closer to those goals? And then what tasks are associated with those projects? And then you can start to track and see the percentage to your goals. And like, man, this is one of my big goals, but I don't have it. Like, I'm really not doing anything to work towards it. Like, wow. And when you can put it outside of your head and see it in the 3D, it's like, you have a different perspective on it. So I just think gamifying it and with the big red X, if it's literally on like I've got these big Post-it notes that I'll put on my wall, and I'll put the month and just some of my goals so I can like look up and see what it is. And if you want to like draw a little calendar on there and have physical X's, you can do that. If you want to do it digitally, that's why in the mastermind, we built an app called Saleslytics. So just a numbers tracker, business tracker app. a big part of that is we have the leaderboard. So everybody in our mastermind can see where everybody's at. So there's some like transparency there, but also on their profile, there's like a percentage to your goal. So it's just cool to see when you put your business plan in, it tells you exactly what you have to do. And you can see your progress towards my contacts, my appointments. And so it's just good to put it outside of you so you can see it from another perspective, not in your own head.
Totally. The other thing I was going to mention for personal accountability is just the fact that, as you reaffirm kind of to the X and you grow in your belief of the type of person you are, sometimes you need somebody like a leader to reaffirm those things with you and help you build those self-beliefs. As we talk about our success triangle, beliefs is like one of the major pillars, then effort, then skills. But as you're building those inside beliefs, you can have somebody do that with you. Then you can have a peer. But then personally, like it's just when you get super clear on your vision, you get super clear on who you are, then holding yourself to that, like for myself, it's like, I know I'm the type of person that does what I say I'm going to do. Right. So I don't need somebody to, hey, Ben, did you do this? Did you do this? Because I've done other types of things outside, just for myself to hold myself accountable. Right. And you can think of things like, just making commitments to your family. Like I have a vision with my wife and sharing your goals, sharing your vision, your plans, getting clear on those together. Like that is all the accountability I need. Because I know what I want and where I'm going to be in 5 years, 10 years. I don't need anybody else because I've taken 100% ownership, 100% accountability for myself to get there. But now through doing that, I have the accountability with my wife to make sure like I'm on track. I have a mortgage that keeps me accountable.
Really accountable.
To keep doing what I need to do. I have accountability and commitments to, because I do things like giving. So my church, like they're expecting or, they plan on certain types of gifts.
Donation,
and that's something that in my head, I want to keep doing. So that holds me accountable. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a bigger house so that you are accountable, or go buy a Lamborghini so that you're accountable and you're going to make the payments. That's the reverse. But just you can do things like, Kobe Bryant, like he saw himself as being the number one player. So he needed and did the things to keep himself on track to continue to reaffirm to himself that he is that type of person.
Yeah. I love what you just described with the like sitting down with your partner, your spouse, and creating that vision. A lot of agents come to us and like, some are worse about it than others, but like kind of, again, putting the external thing, like, I know I need to do this, but like my wife, every time I do this, she doesn't like that, or like, and there's, again, it's the outside world and all these circumstances that in their mind that I can't change this because of this. And when you can sit down, create a bigger vision that you and your family are working towards, and then come to the understanding of, okay, this is what we both want, but this is what it's going to take to be able to start getting there and getting on the same page with that. Now it's a team effort. Even if you're the one, you're the one doing it in terms of like grinding the hours and prospecting and maybe a few late appointments throughout the week. And maybe you got to go on an appointment on a Saturday. If you're not communicating with your spouse, it's like, man, he's always working. He's always on his phone. It's this or that, but it's, hey, like this is our goal. This is what we're working towards. And it's like, well, why aren't you on an appointment tonight? Like go on that appointment or, like it completely flip flops. So I'm surprised we didn't think of that earlier. That is huge. Again, to kind of not wrap this up, but to put a bow on it with another idea, accountability is like the negative thing. Whereas that vision you're running towards, personal responsibility, ownership, is the positive thing you're running towards. And honestly, you need both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need both. And if you take ownership, the accountability is fun because you're sharing your successes. But if it's the opposite and you need the accountability as the whip, then the test is maybe you haven't taken ownership. So it's like, it's probably like a balance of you're always striving to take ownership. But if you have the accountability in place, different forms, then that accountability is like when you fall, it's kind of like a little zap to kind of recenter you and start to pull you up towards that ownership again. Because, you know, to put a bow on what we were just talking about as well, I think often you are so much more inclined to do things for others or fear of loss than you are fear or what you can gain. So gamifying it so that you change your perspective to make it kind of appear that way.
And the last thing I'll add to that, and I heard this, so since I'm 16, I've been super into, like, you know, I read Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 15, 16. And that brought me down the world of the law of attraction and personal development and all this. And what's talked about so much is like, you know, being positive, see the future, this, and it's all like, I don't want to say fairy tale land, but it's all like, stay positive, like only think about the good stuff. And there's a lot of truth to that, but there's also a lot of value and truth in the negative sometimes, and just being so fed up with who you've been and how you've acted because you know how much more you're capable of, and using that as like fuel to spark and launch off into that more positive. Like, think about a car. Like, to start an engine in a car, there has to be like an impact, like the spark plug has to ignite and the piston start, boom, 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 and then it, you know, it's even and drives. But like, you need that like just sense of disdain for the way you've been acting, not for who you are, not because you're a bad person, not because of this, but like, man, the way I've been acting, what I've been doing, the things I've been talking, like the negative self-talk, like just get so mad and frustrated, and then channel that towards like, I'm done. It's the day, it's happening. And then like really run towards that vision. But like in relating, like use that accountability, use that day you messed up as like, man, like I knew I wanted to do that, but I just didn't. And I'm done. It's it. No more, you know, and just use that as a catapult into that bigger vision. Any last thoughts?
Love that. My last thought through that just popped up is just what we've talked about so many times. Brandon has talked about is just, we are only as good as our standards, right? You can have all these wishes and dreams and I should be doing this, or I want to do this, right? But like, we always fall to our standard. So, you know, it's like, how can we put more responsibility in, raise our standards, add that level of accountability, which will help kind of be the zapper to make sure we do our responsibilities while we take ownership of this new level of a standard that we have. So I think that's the progression. That's kind of what we need to think about. And then just the different types of people we can put in or systems to accomplish that.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, guys, this was a fun one. Thanks for hanging, Ben, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.